Hello, it is Derek with No Dog Left Behind Training and Behavior Consulting, coming from you from Moose Jaw. Today I wanted to talk about the idea that a dog and its wagging tail is good, right? Now, this discussion will begin with commonly, yes, a tail wagging is good. Like a friendly, excitable wag when you come through the door, when you see your dog, and your dog's really wiggling at the seams, and they're like, hey, how's it going? Obviously they don't say that, but their body language is pretty clear, soft, wiggly, and, exuberant. So, however, tail wagging is not always good. That's just the reality of it. You have to view the dog's tail as an aspect of their body language, not the entire thing. It'd be kind of similar to you meeting someone, but only focusing on them smiling, not where their eyes are, not what their body posture is doing. That would offer you some misleading information, right? So, in context, it's all relevant. So just generally speaking, and there's always exceptions. Number one is you want to think about where does your dog's tail normally default to be. Depending on the breed, sometimes they might naturally have a curl, over the back of the tail, where the tail always touches the back because it's a husky type of dog or some form of a Nordic breed. For example, some other dogs might be very different, right? Where the tail hangs a lot lower routinely. So number one is be mindful of where it normally sits. The second thing is speed and what the rest of the body's doing. So for instance, if you come in and the dog's tail is nice and wavy and soft and there's kind of broad, excitable strokes, then the dog's probably pretty open, warm, inviting. But then it depends on where's the height. Is it really high or is it really low? So mid-range is kind of like neutral, you could. In a lot of circumstance, mid-range I would consider as commonly being the dog is neutral or warm even. If it's really high, the dog might be even to some extent threatening. If it's really low, the dog might feel threatened, where it's fearful in a certain situation or circumstance of you or some things that are around. So with saying that, the next thing to consider is loose versus rigid with the rest of the dog's body. Okay, so if the tail is really loose and it has nice broader kind of like you think of that black lab or someone's Labrador Retriever that they can like sweep tables and clear off drinks with their tail because it's just so thick and wavy and soft and silly. I mean, that's like an extreme version of really soft and loose. Whereas if you think maybe like some form of a terrier, like let's say like a beagle or a Jack Russell or something like that, where it's really high up and it's just going like this really fast, but short little spurts, that to me might, it could mean a few different things, but one might be back off, not kidding. You have a few moments to make a choice to leave, or else I'm going to follow through with possibly biting you or, possessing this item. So that's how I would view it, okay? If it's really fast and short little broad movement, like short movements, I would probably err on the side of caution, thinking that, this is probably not a good, happy kind of thing. But once again, it's relative to what your dog normally does in other circumstances. So if they get really excited and they just this is how they normally do it, well then, I mean, it's not necessarily going to mean the same thing for a dog who has a really soft, broad, normally happy, inviting tail to where their tail goes really high and it's short like this, right? That's a pretty big, significant difference. So it's happened to me before where people are like, I don't understand, my dog unpredictably bit me. It sucked. They had a toy or a bone in between their legs and they were wagging their tail and I went up and I went to get it and then the dog bit my hand. And I'll say, well, how was the dog standing? And then the dog was I could predict what they were going to say, but anyways, I listened anyhow. The dog is basically standing over the item, staring at the person with like challenging with their eyes, which in the dog world can often not be a good sign. And then the tail was really short and fast and wavy and upright. So the dog was basically flagging. So it's like, serious, if you come any closer, I'm gonna. And then they tell me, oh, the dog bit me, but the tail was wagging. And I was like, well, how was it wagging? That's always the question when I ask. How is it wagging? And what does it mean with the rest of the body? So in this circumstance, the one that I just mentioned, the dog was very rigid, was not moving one like inch out of where it was. It was standing, chest forward, staring at the person. Tail was going really quick and short little movements, and it was giving all the signs that I'm serious. This is my bone, and if you try to take it or get too close, I'm gonna strike. And the dog did, unfortunately. But it was a misunderstanding where the situation could have been, relatively easily de-escalated if the person recognized the signs that the dog was not kidding. And that's not for your information when you get into a power struggle with a dog when it's telling you it's going to bite you. You're not going to do a lot of training in that moment directly in conflict. It's a sloppy way to do stuff. But anyways, that's a whole nother conversation. But to just give you guys some insight, tail wagging isn't always good. Start to think about it in what context is my dog conveying this message. Goodbye.